we've probably talked about this maybe too many times, but yet again, I guess maybe a little different slant on this. What is the weakest point?
The human being is the weakest link in the chain, and it kind of follows directly from what John was just talking about. This was an article that was brought to our attention by in Dark Reading, I guess it was last week, or maybe the week before, about the endpoint, the human being the weakest link in the attacker's best bet for getting in. And one of the, we've talked about the various times bad guys leaving flash drives in the parking lot or and folks taking them in, plugging them into their computers, phishing attacks. And it's a hard problem. We try to train our users not to open attachments. We say it on this show pretty much every week to be careful and not open attachments from people you're not expecting them from, or even people that you know if didn't know they were coming. But the bad guys, continue to try to exploit that. And a couple weeks ago we were talking about how they use social networking sites to try to gather more information to create phishing attacks that you're more likely to fall for because they look like they're from people you know or about topics that they know you're interested in, specifically targeting individuals.
Right. So, and then, clearly this is a sort of a fact of life that as we've gotten into the social networking activities and more people have an opportunity to know more things about you, it certainly provides a lot more opportunities for these types of attacks that are specifically, targeted to individuals.
Yeah, well, and one of the things that one of the charts that they put in the article that they got from Trend Micro was, was similar. You're looking at the attachments in the targeted emails. First of all, they say targeted spearfishing attacks. About 94% of them have, according to some Trend Micro study on this, have attachments, and only 6% of them have, links of other sorts, but not attachments. And of those attachments, it was surprising though that in the previous survey, they were saying that nearly 100% of the .exes, .scrs, whatever, are malicious. But in this particular study, they're showing that about 38% of the attachments are RTF files and 15% are Excel spreadsheets, which aren't necessarily the ones that are always malicious. But if the bad guys have found a particular vulnerability in one of the in the Office suite, for example, and target 0 days there, that's one way of exploiting it, or having macros in there that just do things that wasn't aware they were going to do.
Mm-hmm. Now, was this study focused toward a particular kind of audience, maybe perhaps based on enterprise email as opposed to just a general consumer email? That I guess I'm trying to understand perhaps what one of the things that might have distinguished what John just was talking about versus what you've observed here.
Yeah, well, I think the Trend Micro study, and I haven't actually read that report, but there were a couple of graphs in this Dark Reading article from there. And I believe that one was actually looking at APT-type attacks that were launched via spearfishing. So those would be, targeting corporate types as opposed
to... And there is a big difference there, because we're talking about a big pool of spam.
Right.
And there's a lot of that gets repeated. It gets sent to a lot of different people. APT and Spearfish emails is a very small amount. It's only going to a very few select number of people in each company. It's very targeted, very specific. Like you said, they're using social networks like LinkedIn and whatnot to go figure out who they want to send it to. So it's a much smaller selection pool. I don't even consider spearfishes to be spam, in my opinion. It's like a very targeted, attack. And, one of the things I have observed as well is they do use other file format types. Other than, we have seen some EXE, but very rare. Like you said, Excel is a big one. We've seen some PDFs and RTFs. So, and especially with Excel, these guys who are generating or creating these spearfishes, they have like some very highly zero-day that they've developed exploits for those particular Microsoft Office programs that nobody else knows about. Even Microsoft isn't even aware of how to fix it yet, or even aware that it's out there. So, it's one of those, it's interesting, and people aren't on guard as much about, especially Excel, but they've been using that for at least the past 2-3 years in these spearfish attacks.
Yeah, well, and one of the things that they talk about in this article is, the debate about user education and how useful that is. I mean, we are always telling people, as I said earlier, not to open attachments and that kind of stuff. But, how effective is that? And you can go to one extreme and overdo it to the point where people stop listening, or or you don't do it enough so that people pay attention to it. And I don't know where that balance is, but some enterprises have done a really good job of getting their users to at least report suspicious emails and suspicious attachments. And I think that's probably the best that we can hope for, is that we can train our users to be suspicious enough that, even if they accidentally open one, then they start thinking, well, that was a little odd, and maybe I should report that to the security guys and have them check it out.
I think some of the most successful security stories that exist today are actually kind of have a foundation in the notion of crowdsourcing. That is, having lots of people that are, in many senses, potential victims, with an opportunity or capability to report in their observations about things that appear to be suspicious or they have a question about, and pooling those so that the real issues can start to be brought to the surface. I think that's where that's been successful in the mobile app stores, where users are reporting back the things they find dissatisfactory about tools. It's been successful. One traditional activity was and I think still exists, is the fish tank activities, where potential phishing sites are reported back. Antivirus companies are using that significantly for the end client applications that sort of automate the reporting of what's been detected and how prevalent those things are, to help define how much risk are associated with those events that are detected. So a lot of these things are very important, and similarly with reporting spam emails, if you can get the entire organization to be a part of it, it's a heck of a lot additional brain power and capability that are brought to the table. So with that, that's our show for today. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can contact us through email. Our email address is threattrack@list.att.com. You can contact us through Twitter as well, @ThreatTraq. And ThreatTraq is also available in video form. It's available on the AT&T Tech channel at att.com/ThreatTraq. It's also available on YouTube, and you can subscribe to an audio-only feed on iTunes. Thanks for joining us today, John, and Jim. We'll be back next week with a new episode, and until then, keep your network safe.